Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Go on my cheat sheet for today's MLB main slate. For today on DraftKings, there is an early slate, but I'm going to be going over the main slate that starts at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on my new videos, I'd really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at Crispinel16. If you'd like access to my entire MLB sheet and my Slack chat, the link's in the description below for my Patreon. And if I sound really tired, I apologize. I just got done traveling all day. I'm back home finally, so I can actually play DraftKings now finally, and I'll get my schedule back to normal where I get the videos out before 4 in the morning Eastern time. So looking forward to getting back to the MLB grind and all the other sports. I haven't been able to play it, so I missed it. So anyway, let's get into the sheet. So let's talk about pitching. We have Jacob deGrom, 11,600 versus the Royals, Eduardo Rodriguez versus the Orioles at 9K. Then Zach Eflin at 6,900 versus San Diego. Then Marquez versus the Marlins. I want to talk about him too. So let's do a little pitching sheet preview to see why I like the guys that I like. So let's talk about Jacob deGrom up top. He's obviously the best play on the board, just considering how good he is. He's far and away the best pitcher on the slate, outside of maybe Ryu, but love deGrom in this matchup versus the Royals. They're just not a very scary team. deGrom's got excellent numbers this season: 3.31 xFIP, 31% strikeout rate, only a 6% walk rate. Doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. Just a good strikeout rate to lefties and righties. And if we look at the matchup versus the Royals, now it's not the highest strikeout matchup in the world, but it's still the Royals, and it's Jacob deGrom. So absolutely love him. They've only got an 89 WRC plus versus righties, 307 WOBA versus righties, 155 ISO, and 22% strikeout rate. But it's Jacob deGrom. I think he can have a fantastic game here. I think it's a pretty safe matchup, and he's going to be highly owned just because of the nature of this slate. It's actually really easy to afford two decently high-priced pitchers because there's a lot of value on this slate. So I do like Jacob deGrom. And then we have Eduardo Rodriguez, I like second at 9K versus the Baltimore Orioles. Now this is more of a matchup play versus the Orioles, who just suck versus lefties. If I can find them. Oops. Okay, I was looking at righties. Okay, so if you look at the Orioles splits versus lefties, they have a 26.7% strikeout rate, which is the highest on the slate. 158 team ISO, 305 team WOBA, and only 88 WRC plus. He's coming in at a massive favorite as the Red Sox have a really high implied run total. The Orioles have the lowest implied run total of the slate. So I do like Eduardo Rodriguez a lot. You get quite a bit of savings off of Jacob deGrom. But honestly, it's really easy to fit deGrom and Erod in as your two main pitchers. I already tried it. There's enough value on the slate to do it, but you might want some more bats. So that's why I like Zach Eflin at 6,900. Versus the Padres, who do struggle with righties. They strike out a good amount at 26.2%. He's going to see a lot of righties in this matchup. Zach Eflin is pretty tough on the righties if you look at his splits, which I will show you in a second. But overall, we want righties versus the Padres with that strikeout rate. If you look at Eflin's splits versus righties, they're pretty good. He's only allowing a 137 ISO to them. Now, the strikeout rate's not the best, but he's got a low walk rate, doesn't allow a lot of hard contact, gets a lot of ground balls. So I do like Zach Eflin in this matchup. His splits versus lefties are a lot worse, but you shouldn't see too many lefties in this lineup. So I do like Zach Eflin at that price tag. Then Herman Marquez at 8,800. I think he's interesting too. He's got decently good numbers this season: 3.51 xFIP, 24% strikeout rate, only a 4% walk rate, gets a lot of ground balls, doesn't allow a lot of fly balls at all. And the Marlins are a great matchup for right-handed pitching. If you look at their splits versus righties, you're going to see a lot of green bars from Marquez here at 25% strikeout rate, only a 123 team ISO, 280 team WOBA, 75 WRC plus. I know it's Coors Field, but the Marlins just suck versus righties. They scored absolutely no runs last night, so I do like this for I do like the matchup from Marquez. He's decently cheap at 8,800. I can see him being a fine SP2 option if you're not comfortable with Eflin and you want to decide between Erod and Marquez. And if you want to fade deGrom, you could go Marquez and Erod, and I think that's got some good upside as well, and you could get some better bats in too. So anyway, that's my opinion on pitching. Let's get into the batters now. So catcher, we have two White Sox guys, and James McCann and Wellington Castillo. Suarez allows a lot of power to righties. Now, I mean, he's got an okay strikeout percentage, but he gives them some power, so I do like these guys. They're pretty cheap, and I do like a White Sox stack versus Suarez, who's had some struggles this season. And Wellington Castillo is just a little bit too cheap, in my opinion. Then Jason Castro at 4K versus Ariel Hirado. Now, he is worse versus righties, but Castro should be in the lineup versus the righties, and I just think the Twins are too good of an offense. Hirado does not scare me whatsoever. The bullpen's not very good either, so give me all the Twins I can get versus Hirado. Then at first base, we have Daniel Murphy. He's just a little bit too cheap here at 4,100 versus Hector Noesi, who does not scare me at all. The Rockies have an implied run total about 7.3 right now, which is highest on the slate. We're in Coors Field. He should be a little bit more expensive than 4,100, so I love Daniel Murphy tomorrow. He's a core play for me. And Jose Abreu, 4,600 versus Jose Suarez. Again, the White Sox are in a pretty good spot versus Suarez, who allows a good amount of power to righties. Then Jock Peterson at 4,300 versus Fulte, who just is not very good. I know he was chalk last game out. I don't think he had the very best. He didn't have the best game in the world. Again, I was on vacation, so I was keeping up with the games, but I don't have like it all locked down. But again, Fulte is someone we can attack, especially with the Dodgers, who were just elite all around. And Jock Peterson is going to be leading off versus righty. We know how good he is versus righty, so he makes a lot of sense to me. And then second base, we have Max Muncy at 4,900 versus Fulte. Same reasons as Peterson. Just a ton of power there. Then Luis Arias at 4,800 versus Ariel Hirado. I love the Twins bats, and he's going to be a key part of that tomorrow. Then Diaz at 3,300. He's projected to bat second versus Marquez. Marquez does a little bit of struggles versus lefties. He's very cheap, and he's a good way for us to get Erod and DeGrom in if we want to, so I don't mind going with him. Then at third base, we have Devers at 5,600 versus Asher. I never know how to say this guy's name. Wishachowski, something like that. He's actually not absolutely awful. He did start out really hot, and he has faded a little bit, but it's the Red Sox. They should be able to mash against any pitcher, and they have one of the highest implied run totals, but I meant to say, and I do think they're in a pretty good spot versus the Orioles pitching, which we all know just sucks overall, especially the bullpen. The Nolan Arenado, he's a core play for me tomorrow. He's a little bit too cheap in my opinion. Story's 5,700 and Arenado's 5,300. Again, Hector Noesi sucks, and the Rockies should feast. And then we have Neil Walker for value versus German Marquez. He's a lefty. He's projected to bat projected to bat cleanup. He's very cheap, so he's not priced correctly for Coors Field. I know the Marlins suck, but it's still Coors Field, so you gotta give him a boost. So 3,200 is just a little too cheap in my opinion. And then shortstop, we have Trevor Story 5,700 versus Hector Noesi. Now Story's been very, very good versus Rays this season, so if I have to pick between him or Arenado, give me Trevor Story, but hopefully you don't have to pick. I don't think you should. So I definitely love Trevor Story. He's been great versus Rays this season. Jorge Polanco is much better from the left side of the plate. And again, I love the Twins on this slate. Then Tim Anderson at 4,400. He's always been very good versus lefties, and I do think this is a really good spot for the White Sox. Then in the high-end outfield, we have a ton of good options in the high-end outfield. So we got couldn't fit all these guys in, so a lot of plays here, but Trout, Blackmon, Belly, all in pretty good spots. Blackmon for the Rockies, absolutely love him. Belly versus Fulte, and Trout versus Hector Santiago. Trout's actually been mashing White Sox pitching. I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw a graphic on Twitter, but been absolutely great versus them, and it's Mike Trout, and he's awesome. So all of these guys are fantastic plays in my opinion. The Twins outfield are in good spots. Max Kepler and Eder Rosario. You can even throw Marvin Gonzalez on there. And then the Red Sox outfield are all in great spots. Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, and Andrew Benintendi are all fine plays with me. So many good spots in the outfield. It's going to be hard picking between which ones we want to play. Then in the mid-range outfield, we have Tapia, 4,500, just cheaper Rockies exposure, and he's been pretty good recently. Bryce Harper, who's on an absolute tear versus a righty who struggles with lefties. So don't mind going with the hot hand there. Michael Conforto, 4,600, who's going against Junis, who does struggle with lefty power occasionally. Now he's got a pretty good strikeout rate, but Conforto is very good versus righties, so I think this is a pretty decent spot for him. He's going to have zero ownership. And then in the value outfield, we have Eloy Jimenez at 3,800. I do like the White Sox in this matchup. Now I can actually see a lot of people using Suarez as a cheap pitching option, but I'm just not too interested in that. The White Sox are not that bad versus lefties. Much worse versus righties, so I do like Eloy's cheap home run play there. Adam Eaton, just cheap lefty versus Jordan Lyles, who struggles with lefties. Jock Peterson, we talked about. And Trent Grisham, if he's leading off at 2,900, I think that's fantastic value, and that's going to allow us to get our high-end pitching in with Coors bats, which we can't do often, so I do like that. And then if we go to the core plays and top stacks, I have DeGrom at 11.6, and a trio of Rockies guys, Murphy, Arenado, and Story. I just love the spots for them, and I just can't get away from them, in my opinion, unless we're going to be stacking like another team like the White Sox or Red Sox. So, but in cash games, I think that's the way to go. Top stacks for me are going to be the Rockies, the Twins, the Red Sox, the White Sox, and the Dodgers. And that's going to be it for the video, guys. Sorry again if I don't have much energy, if I sound boring or just out of it. I'm very tired. It's 4 in the morning. My goodness, I got to go to bed. Anyway, guys, that's it for the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. Links in the description below for my Patreon. I wish you guys the best of luck and have a great weekend. And if you're going to play NASCAR races on Saturday night, so watch the NASCAR video I just posted.